Let's start with Khabib versus Conor. It's booked in, UFC 229, October the 6th in the heart of fighting. No, that's not outside a provincial town centre boozer, Las Vegas. And Dan, is it right in saying that this is the biggest fight of all time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, with the rise of the two fighters, obviously Khabib was quite simmering for about 15 fights until he kind of hit the UFC. And then, he's become a massive star because he's so ferocious and so dominant. And then Conor McGregor is, the biggest star we've ever had in the sport. And fortunately, they're both in the same weight class. They're very, very different in characters and in fighting styles as well. It's a great match. And it could go either way as well. That's what makes it so exciting.
I think Conor not being in the octagon for best part of 12 months, best part of 2 years, not inside in a ring for the best part of 12 months since the Mayweather fight. It's just a whole different audience he's bringing to mixed martial arts now as well. We've used the term previously with certain stars like Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey about transcending the octagon, but this guy is taking it to a whole new level. I don't think there's anybody walking the streets of the UK now that aren't familiar with who Conor McGregor is, and all those eyeballs, he will drag them back to the octagon on October the 6th, and the sport really is ready to capitalise on that.
Because it's crazy.
I was surprised. Were you surprised, Nick, that they didn't allow himself a bit more time for a build-up, given the fact that this is going to be such a big fight?
100%. This the crazy thing. The last couple of fights that Conor's had in the UFC, there's also been world tours involved. Don't forget, there's a world tour with the Jose Aldo fight. There's a world tour with the Mayweather boxing match. This guy, he generates so many headlines that it made sense for this to maybe happen between Christmas and New Year and give ourselves 6 months of build-up. But they've decided to turn it round inside 60 days.
Because we talked about this on the podcast last week. We were looking at the dates. We knew it was going to be in Vegas. We looked at the 2 dates. There was one in October, which I'd heard might happen. But we all thought that, yes, it'll be, I think it was the 27th or the 28th or the 29th of December.
Yeah.
That would be great. But yeah, it's ballsy. It's ballsy from the UFC. And Dan, it's ballsy from Conor McGregor. 2 years out of the octagon, no tune-up fight, nothing like that, going up against a guy that has been called by lots of people terrifying.
Well, he is terrifying, but Conor McGregor is supremely confident, which is a part of the reason why he wins a lot of his fights before they even start. We don't know what he's been doing in his time off. You've got to think the amount of money he's got sitting in his account at the moment. He can do what he wants with his time, and he is a student of martial arts. There's no doubt about it. So although he's probably been enjoying his money, he's also probably been spending just as much time in the gym. So we don't know what he's been working on. We don't know how he's been improving. That's part of what makes it exciting for me, is because he is to an extent an unknown commodity coming into this.
Everybody I've spoken to in and around Conor McGregor has given me the same information back. Don't sleep on him. Don't think the fact that he's been out of the octagon for all this time is
they
a reason
would
to
say
think
that
his standard has dropped. Apparently, he grinds just as hard as he's ever done. The money hasn't changed him in terms of his desire and his want to prove this legacy fight. That's what we were saying last week. You got 100 million in the bank when 5 years ago you were on the dole. You get to this point in life and you think, you know what, I've won at life, and all your goals would drop. But apparently that's not the case with Conor McGregor. He's got work to do. He still wants to prove himself to be the greatest mixed martial artist the sport's ever seen. And you know what? By fighting Khabib, just by taking the fight with Khabib inside 60 days, that is such a big statement to make. And a performance here, a win here, and suddenly Conor's back at the top of everybody's pound-for-pound list.
Well, he's still there. He's not fought for however long. He's still number 2 or 3 in the pound-for-pound. In fact, he went up 1 without fighting for 2 years. Dan, this is the point. So he's stepping back in, almost 2 years out. What's the longest layoff you had? And can you stay sharp if you've just been grinding in the gym?
Yeah, you can stay sharp. I mean, there's a certain amount of timing that you would lose, and you lose that over time depending on how much you have away. But I mean, the longest I took was probably 8 or 9 months off, and that was after my 4-fight losing streak, and I needed to do something different. So there was a different motive for me there. I was in the gym every day trying to make improvements in my game and turn things around, whereas Conor, I mean, he's effectively at the top of his game still. So we don't know what he's been adding to his game. Obviously, his confidence is in a different place, which changes things again. You can lose time, and of course, you can get some timing back through sparring, but regular fighting. In my early career, I was fighting every couple of weeks, and there's no timing like it. You feel so comfortable in there. So there is going to be a bit of adjustment, but then that's why he's got the X factor. Conor McGregor, he has the confidence that carries him through fights where people would normally fall apart.
And this whole mental thing, I think you mentioned it, Nick, that he's managed to break fighters beforehand. He did it with Jose Aldo. Aldo was a broken fighter mentally when he stepped into the octagon against him. He's not going to be able to do this against Khabib.
No, he isn't, and you know what? Maybe that's part of the reason why we're getting it so soon. You know, maybe it's let's be honest here. This is Conor's world, and we all live in it. You know, he's the biggest brand in mixed martial arts, bigger even than the UFC in a lot of ways. And I think he's come back to the UFC, and he's coming back on his terms. Let's not make no mistakes about that. He's chose to fight on this date. He's chose to fight against Khabib Nurmagomedov. Conor's in control of all this, so you've got to ask yourself, why are we getting it so quickly? Potentially, it's part of the reason is he doesn't want to do another world tour. He doesn't financially need it.